Hi, my name is Shoaib Yusuf. I'm a solutions architect for the NetScaler SD-WAN product. In this video, I want to showcase some of the features that we have in our new NetScaler SD-WAN MR4 environment hosted in Citrix Demo Center. So when you provision an environment, you have all the access into the different components that reside in the Demo Center environment for SD-WAN. Before I begin, I want to show the actual architecture of this environment and what demonstration we'll actually show here. In the default environment configuration, when you provision it, it will have an up and running, all in the cloud environment pre-configured to demonstrate some of the capabilities for the infrastructure that has a branch office in the cloud connecting to a data center that's in the cloud across a virtualized path. Utilizing the NetScaler SD-WAN solution. For this demonstration, we're going to change that configuration. We're going to alter it so that we can have a physical on-prem appliance serve as that branch office location. So that physical appliance will connect into a switch, which also will have a host laptop that can connect into it to actually run the demonstration. And this is essentially a branch in a box type configuration. That remote office will be configured for 2 WAN links, an LTE WAN link and an internet WAN link at the set speeds that's already in the configuration. It essentially mimics a flat network in that the 172.17.30.1 is the default gateway for the LAN network. And when the appliance is in a powered off state, essentially it's sitting in path transparently across the APA LAN and APA WAN interface, where the management network of the appliance is connected to the switch. So the laptop and the appliance itself are obtaining DHCP IP address through the fail-to-wire card of the appliance connecting to the 30.1 modem. So this is very key in how we are going to utilize the zero-touch deployment service here to essentially have the appliance obtain an IP address as it's powered on, and then it will call home to the zero-touch deployment service and essentially authenticate itself with its serial number, pulling down the needed configuration and essentially pushing down the configuration software and license so that the appliance can be configured and allowed to join the existing virtual path that's already established from the data center to the branch office that's in the cloud. Okay. So with the topology out of the way, we're going to essentially begin prepping the environment so that we can showcase this zero-touch deployment demo. So it begins by connecting into SD-WAN Center, and as always, connect into an incognito window for a supported browser, either Chrome or Firefox. And the other component that we would need in addition to SD-WAN Center is actually the data center SD-WAN standard edition user interface. So we'll go ahead and log into that as well. And these had the login password cached, but the provisioning email will have the credentials for you to properly log on to those VMs. Now, if we go into the monitoring tab statistics page of the MCN located in Demo Center, we can see that just a single branch office site is currently in the configuration. So this is the default all in the cloud config that we need to alter. And in order to alter that, we have to go to our SD-WAN Center, go into the configuration page, go into network configuration, and we need to open a pre-configured, pre-saved configuration called on-prem appliance zero-touch deployment. Now what this does is it takes that single DC and branch office configuration and adds upon it several other branch office sites with specific appliance denoted that support zero-touch deployment. The 1000 and 2000, you have to preemptively re-image those boxes with the 9.21 USB image so that they have zero-touch deployment capability. But 2100 and 410 appliances will have that capability out of factory, so you don't have to do anything special to those. But it begins by going into the Advanced tab and opening up the actual DC internet link. And this is where you have to do your first configuration change, in that this provisioned environment has a very unique public IP address that will allow us to have a physical appliance connect into this cloud and infrastructure and connect into the SD-WAN overlay network. So you have to take that public IP address, go into the DC internet link, and update that public IP address with the one that's specific to your test environment, and then click apply. So now with that configuration in place, we can essentially save and push this configuration out to the MCN so that he's ready for zero-touch deployment. And depending on which appliance you have, you will deploy the site appropriately. Now, when you look at the actual layout of each of the individual branches, you will see that the configuration is very much unique per branch. You know, the 1000 branch has a 172.30 network and a 172.17.30 and a 172.17.31 network, where the 2000 branch has a 40 and 41 network. The 2100 branch has different virtual IP subnets in 20 and 21. So based off that, we can go and essentially draw out what our subnet will look like at this particular branch office where we're deploying. So that means that you have to if you have that 1000 appliance and those are the subnets that you're dealing with, you have to preemptively configure your modems to support that. So the modem would have to be in the 172.17.30 network, and the secondary WAN link would have to be in the 172.17.31 network. Okay, so that's very important that you match your physical configuration of the appliances, the modems, to match that of the configuration that's laid out here. But essentially, that is it. You have to save this configuration, export it, and this will export into the change management. And the change management on SD-WAN will actually point to the MCN. So if you encounter any override requirements, go ahead and override them so that we can get the zero-touch deployment configuration pushed out. The hyperlink would take you to the direct MCN, but because this is a demo environment leveraging public IP addresses, you'll need to actually navigate to the actual public IP URL that's available and manually go into the configuration virtual WAN change management page, where as you begin, you will see that the on-prem appliance zero-touch deployment is in the inbox and it's ready to go through the change management process. So you'll need to go through this process of change management to push this new configuration, going through the change preparation, appliance staging, and activation. In addition, there will be the packages that you have to install for the respective branches that we have. So if you want to not install all the packages and you just want to have your, the particular appliance that you have, you can delete the other branches and save it as a new config so that you only have to install the package that you need. But in this case, I'll install all the packages, I'll save the I'll push through the configuration and change management, and I'll come back to this video as soon as we're done with activation. Okay, quickly coming back to this video, I uploaded the necessary packages, and you'll see that the table will update with the status done for the two cloud hosted instances. But the physical appliances for the zero touch, they will be in a not needed state or not connected state for the software. So you just proceed to the next section here after that's fully complete there, and then click on the activate staged. And this will flip over the config to the new config where these zero touch deployment boxes will call home to the SD-WAN center using to the SD-WAN MCN using that public IP address that we put in the configuration. So I'll come back once this is complete. Okay, so we're all done with the change management, so we can go ahead and click done. Now we can immediately go into the SD-WAN zero touch deployment page where we can begin our workflow for zero touch. So before we get into the actual zero touch deployment workflow, you can refresh the browser if you encounter any cached cookies, but you should come up to the monitoring page where you can view the actual status of the WAN links. So the data center and branch office, you'll see that it's still there and only the MPLS link is in a validated or usable state. This is to be expected. The internet link for LTE and internet for the branch will go down because we're essentially changing the config and taking that aspect out of the equation. Now we're really just focused on these branch office appliances for zero-touch capability. So with that in place, you can enable just an auto refresh to kind of view this as the zero-touch deployment process is taking place. But in order to begin the workflow for zero-touch, the first thing that you have to do is log into the Citrix Workspace Cloud account. If you don't have one, you can create it using the onboard.cloud.com URL, which is outlined in the documentation that we have online for zero-touch. But click into the Login Workspace Cloud button, and what you get is a pop-up window. If your browser is blocking the pop-up, make sure that you allow the pop-up for this to have available. And this is essentially connecting into our cloud service API for this authentication to take place. So go ahead and put in your specific login, and I'll go ahead and input in mine. Okay, and sign in to your cloud login. Now, do not close this browser. Allow this browser to be up and ready. Essentially, it's a 10 to 20 second process for this zero-touch cloud service to authenticate successfully authenticate your cloud login. But the browser itself will go away. Do not close it. Allow the system to detect the successful login and to automatically go away itself, and it will automatically refresh your SD-WAN Center browser so that your zero-touch deployment page now has you logged in, and you see the available tabs to actually deploy the sites. Okay, so with that, we're logged in to the cloud service that we have here, and we're able to deploy sites using the configuration that we just pushed out. So because there's two configurations on this SD-WAN Center, we need to select the one that's currently active and the one that has our zero-touch deployment sites. So for me, I have the 1000 appliance, so I'll go ahead and enable and deploy for zero-touch. And one of the things that you can do is preemptively put in the serial number to that particular appliance, and that allows you to bypass the installer having to put in the serial number for the zero-touch process to take place. So it's just one less step that the installer has to do. In this case, we'll leave it empty so that we're forced to put that in. And then you can put in just basic information about this particular remote office that we want to have the installer install. So we just put in his personal email address. So ztdinstaller@outlook is the one that I'm testing from, so I'll use that one, but it's going to be specific to the installer's email requirements. And essentially what we're doing is we're sending the installer an email to provide him the activation link as well as instructions. So I want the installer to first cable in the management to internet, okay? And second, I want to cable in WAN link apa.wan to internet, okay? And the last piece is to power on the appliance, all right? So these are the instructions that I have for the installer, and then and he will get the email as we deploy this site. So you click the deploy button. This SD-WAN Center will send an email. It will take your branch out of the list here in the deploy new sites, and it will put it into the pending activation site. So we have it sitting here waiting for the installer for action. Okay. If there was any type of issue in terms of this, you could always delete this instance and it'll go back to the deploy new site. But essentially now we're waiting for the installer. So now we can go into our installer email, and let's take a look at what email was sent to us. Okay, we have the zero-touch deployment service sent us an email with the instructions that the installer, that the SD-WAN admin gave to us as an installer. So we will take the activation link and we will open that up. Okay, what that does is give us the activation progress bar as well as the input for serial number if that was what was instructed for us to do. So as an installer, I want to first show the topology here. So we'll go ahead and just show that on the side. And what we're going to do is essentially match up our physical device and install it the way this topology is laid out. So I'll go ahead and do that from this perspective. I'll first cable up the appliance. Okay, we'll take a look at the back of the appliance here, and we'll cable up the first WAN link to this modem. So this modem will be our DHCP server. So this is an activated modem with 4G connection to the internet, and I'll also use this switch to connect our management port. So the first connection that we're going to make here is for our modem, which is the default gateway of 30.1, and we validated this beforehand to make sure that it's going to DHCP assign an IP address. And we're connecting that to the APA.1 interface. The APA.WAN interface. And then the LAN side of the APA interface, which is the bypass bridge, we're going to connect that to our switch. Okay. So this is currently in a powered off state, so it's going to fail to wire across this, which means that anything on the LAN side will have connectivity to it. So that switch will also connect into our management port. So our management port will go through the fail to wire card and connect to the DHCP modem, so that we're able to obtain an IP address for our appliance, and then we power on the appliance. Okay, so we'll plug in the power cable, and we'll hit the power switch, and the appliance will power on. All right. So that's all the installer has to do from that perspective. The next piece is actually going into and looking at the back of the appliance and just typing in the IP address, or the serial number of this particular appliance. Okay, and if this is typed in improperly, you could always redo the demonstration by clearing the config and typing this in again. So we'll just type in the serial number and click activate. Okay, so this will go through the workflow of automation. So first, the appliance will boot. After about a minute of boot time, the appliance will attempt to IP address itself using the management port, connecting through the fail to wire pair again, and connecting to the DHCP server to IP address itself, at which time it will have internet connection. And that internet connection means that the appliance's management IP address is able to connect to our Citrix cloud service. And that cloud service is what allows the appliance to reach out and communicate with SD-WAN Center to obtain the configuration. Okay, so this process will work through that. So the appliance is currently booting, obtaining an IP address, and as soon as it has connectivity, he will download the configuration needed to install. Okay, so we'll wait for that to take place. Okay, so we can see that it connected to the zero-touch deployment service, and that zero-touch deployment service took that serial number and allowed that serial number and validated that serial number, allowing it to pull the configuration that was shared from the SD-WAN center. And now it's applying that configuration onto this local appliance that we have. And that configuration essentially enables the topology that we are viewing, enables this topology, and allows the SD-WAN to have the ability to have these multiple WAN links and to connect to that public IP address that we specifically put in the configuration for it to connect on the internet link. In addition, if this appliance was a factory image that did not have the 921 firmware specifically, it would then download the software needed and install a license so that it can establish a virtualized path. So we can see from the activation that it activated fully, and we can see from our MCN at the head end that we're able to see that branch office 1 come in on the internet link and establish a good connection. You can further validate connectivity by going to the virtual WAN change management page, and you can see that during that first installation, it will validate and sync the configuration. So it goes through a process of validating that configuration one more time through the MCN, and then sharing another configuration with the box automatically so that it is able to join the SD-WAN overlay environment. So this takes another minute or so, but that will be complete, and you're essentially ready to demonstrate any further demonstrations that you have with the zero-touch deployment, as well as with this particular branch office site. So before we end this video, there's one thing that I do want to go through is actually cleaning up the environment. So let's say we've done the zero-touch deployment demonstration here, and we want to reset it so that we can reproduce this again. So the first thing is to go ahead and close out your activation URL. Second thing would be to delete your email. The next piece is to go to the SD-WAN center, and we can see that our box from pending activation, if we click activation history, it will actually take that entry and move it over to a completed activation history that we have. So you can go ahead and take that and delete it. So once you delete that activation history, your appliance will come back into the ready to deploy site again, and this is you have to select the appropriate configuration for that to view that. So that's cleaning it up on the demo center side. Let's also do the same cleanup locally on the appliance, which I'll have to navigate to right now to perform that. Okay, so now on the installer's desktop, what we want to do is connect into the local appliance and to, finalize resetting this configuration so that we can do this demonstration again. Okay. So log in with the default credentials because it's the factory default box. And what you'll immediately notice is that there is a Grace license installed. So this is what the SD-WAN service installs for us so that the box can have connectivity into can have immediate connectivity into any SD-WAN overlay network. Now that 10 meg, it's a 10 meg license which needs to be immediately updated from the configuration page and licensing page. But we can see that this is the local appliance. It has its configuration. No manual connection was needed up to this point in order to get the virtual paths to be established and for it to be a part of the network. So the first part of resetting this back to the factory state in order for us to redo this type of demo is actually to eliminate the Grace license. You have to upload a license, a permanent license or eval license to this box so that you have the ability to delete the license, which will eliminate the Grace license along with it. So we'll go ahead and do that. So that license is uploaded, and then you can delete selected license, and that will delete the Grace license that we have installed. Okay, so now the system is unlicensed. Okay, the next piece is to go into the configuration reset and just perform a configuration reset of the appliance. Okay. And this is about a minute and a half process to get the configuration reset. But as soon as the box comes back online, essentially it's ready for us to reproduce the same zero-touch deployment demo again. So you can consistently reproduce the same demonstration using the SD-WAN center and SD-WAN MCN that's located in Demo Center. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.